are on July the 18th in the year of our Lord 2025. Got a lot of great information for you. Let me jump over here, Murtech on Rumble. And right here is the video that you're watching, this live stream, episode 1627. Let's go ahead and get into that. I'll pause the video, pause it there. Okay. All right. Let me close out the chat, slide down here and open up the description box. And we have some information from Dr. Steve Turley, ACLJ Sekulow, American Center for Law and Justice, Doug In Exile, and Bongino report. Okay, that's not Dan Bongino. Used to be Dan Bongino show, and he also had a second channel, Bongino report, but he doesn't do that. It's an associate of his that actually does the news and information for him, or on his channel. But before we get into that, I do want to give a shout out here to R. Nikora, just started following my channel. Hebrew How To just started following my channel. KRW1 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you're watching tonight. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Mohican Last commented on my daily news wrap-up from yesterday, and Debbie BS commented on my episode 1624. Debbie BS, Birdie71, and XFY Grandma, Foxy Grandma, and 2 Ripstick commented on my episode 1626. Debbie BS commented on my extra 410A, and Debbie BS commented on my extra 410B. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I really enjoy reading your input, and I appreciate your support. So thank you very much. Let me give this a thumbs up. Let me show you how easy this is. Boom. There it is. There. You know what? It didn't even hurt. In fact, it actually felt good. When you push that little thumbs up button and it turns green like that, man, it's wonderful. I'm telling you. Okay, speaking of comments, comment of the day from Birdie71. Let's go ahead and click on that. And she says, great information, Murph. Thanks for putting this together. You're welcome, Birdie71, and thanks for watching. Okay, let's get back here and see what Dr. Steve Turley has to say. Is this Supreme Court justice about to be removed? One can only hope. Okay, let's jump over here and see what he has to say.
It's their biggest victory in decades, and the left is absolutely melting down. Just days ago, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that President Trump can indeed fire 1,400 Department of Education employees immediately, effectively gutting one of the most bloated left-wing bureaucracies in all of Washington, D.C., and that's saying something. But here's what makes this decision truly historic. It's become a focal point for many asking, are we about to see perhaps the single most constitutionally illiterate justice in our nation's history get removed from the court? That is exactly what we're going to find out. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to give you the breaking news and analysis you're not going to find anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Let's start with the significance of the latest Supreme Court ruling win, the latest in a succession of wins for the Trump administration. The 6 conservative justices just granted the Trump administration's request to temporarily pause an order by a federal judge in Massachusetts that would require the Department of Education to reinstate nearly 1,400 employees who were fired earlier this year as part of the Trump administration's gutting of this liberal monstrosity. The conservative majority ruled that the Trump administration was indeed thoroughly within its executive rights to go ahead and continue to dismantle the Department of Education. So once again, this ruling has further affirmed Article 2's executive power clause, which requires that the president have complete authority over personnel decisions in the executive branch. Now, this has been challenged over the last several decades. We've actually talked about this in some past videos. So again, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It all goes back to a 1935 Supreme Court ruling known as Humphrey's Executor versus the United States. And if you look it up, you'll find that the summary of the ruling is basically that presidents can only fire independent agency commissioners for serious reasons. So the case established that the president does not have unlimited power to remove executive officials. So Humphrey's executor has more or less been the linchpin for all these lawsuits alleging that the president has limited power in terms of who he can actually fire when it comes to executive employees. But this court, this current court, is now making it clear that Humphrey's executor was very much off base, and that the executive power, according to Article 2 of the Constitution, absolutely requires the ability of the executive to make full personnel decisions to fire and hire whoever he wants for whatever reason he wants at any time within the executive sphere of authority. And if you don't like it, then elect another executive.
All right, folks, I'm going to pause this here. This is just an example of the swamp. I mean, this goes back to what he said, 1933. Okay, the president wanted to clear out some people. The Humphreys bill, I don't know if that was Hubert Humphreys. I'm not sure if that's who the president was back then. But the deep state jumped in and didn't want their lackeys to be removed. So the deep state, this isn't something new. Dwight D. Eisenhower talked about this when he left office on his farewell speech, warned us about the military-industrial complex. That's the deep state. They want to keep that money flowing to line their pockets, and to hell with the taxpayer. You know, just go out and get a second job. As long as you keep the money flowing, that's all we care about.
So what's so key here about this decision is that this isn't just about the Department of Education. It's about the integrity of Article 2 of the Constitution. Any congressional statutes, any Supreme Court decisions that limit the president's constitutionally granted authority are by definition unconstitutional. This actually goes back to an earlier Supreme Court decision that affirmed this back in 1926, is what's called the Myers decision, which did indeed affirm that the firing and removal power is essential for the president to fulfill his constitutional duty. So the Humphrey executor decision, which was just over a decade later, it more or less overturned the Myers decision. Well, that executor decision, the Humphrey executor's decision, is now itself being effectively overturned by this wonderful Supreme Court. And as a result, I mean, the numbers are simply staggering. Since January, Trump's federal workforce overhaul has resulted in approximately 60,000 job losses across the federal government. The Labor Department reported that 22,000 federal jobs were eliminated just in May alone. Additionally, at least 75,000 federal employees have accepted voluntary resignation packages with pay and benefits through September. The Department of Education ruling specifically allows the termination of 1,400 bureaucrats. That's half the agency's workforce. And according to CNN's tracking, this is all just the beginning. It's all part of a broader initiative targeting more than a dozen federal agencies. However, what's really revealing in all of this is the renewed scrutiny that one Supreme Court justice is getting, and it's having many ask the question, should she even be on the Supreme Court in the first place? And if not, can she be removed? Gang, we're not just
Okay, he's going into a commercial here, so let me go ahead and skip past that. Now, just FYI, okay?
free shipping.
FYI, 60,000 federal employees. Now, if that is just a cost of $50,000 per employee, Now, some of them might not be making $50,000, but I would say that a lot of them are making more than that. But when you count the cost of benefits that have to be paid for, retirement, going into a retirement fund that has to be paid for, I would say $50,000 is probably a pretty good number to estimate. That is $3 billion a year in salary savings. Okay, and Elon Musk is bitching because Donald Trump is not trying to cut the spending. Okay, I know that $3 billion is a drop in the bucket compared to $34 trillion in debt, but hey, you've got to pick away at it. They've been adding to it for who knows how long, since 1933 at least, or since maybe 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created in the dark of night. But let's continue with Dr. Steve.
Ketanji Jackson was in the news of late, but not the way anyone would want to be. The Supreme Court just days ago issued an 8-1 decision. Yes, you heard that right. 8-1 that overturned a lower court injunction that had blocked the federal government from moving forward with a Trump executive order that directed 19 federal departments to develop plans for large-scale layoffs. Again, CNN is pointing out what we're seeing now is just the beginning. So the key with Trump's EO was that it was going to basically decimate the deep state by a mass purge of federal employees throughout 19 federal departments. But a lower court judge said Trump couldn't go through with that. You're not allowed. Well, now in this 8-1 ruling, the court again sided with Trump. They completely reversed the lower court ruling and have authorized that the planning process mandated by Trump's EO can indeed continue. Now, as you may have guessed, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Justice Otto Penn, was literally the only sole justice who dissented. Even the liberal justices Kagan and Sotomayor voted with this conservative majority. And this is causing a number of commentators to ask, should this constitutional illiterate even be on the court in the first place? Now, this question is being asked at the very same time Congress and the Justice Department are opening up investigations into the Biden administration's use of auto pen devices for critical presidential actions. Multiple sources have confirmed that Biden used an auto pen to sign numerous pardons and potentially even executive actions, including Supreme Court nominations. And of course, bubbling Biden, he's out there defending his auto pen use in a written statement, stating, I made every decision. I made every decision. I use that pen. A whole lot of people use that pen, Jack. It's a problem, Jack. Now, of course, we don't even know if it was Biden who issued that statement. I mean, this is the problem when you become President Auto Pen. And legal experts are now openly raising serious questions about executive accountability and the legitimacy of actions taken without direct, verifiable presidential involvement, at the heart of which involves the nomination of Ketanji Jackson and whether she could be removed actually due to this auto pen scandal. Bottom line, is Jackson's nomination legitimate if Biden used an auto pen instead of personally signing her nomination? Unfortunately, as I understand with all the research I did on this, legal experts are pretty much unanimous in agreement that Jackson at this point in the game simply can't be removed through this avenue of illegitimacy. While there is no question that she is a liberal whack job There's no question she's clearly constitutionally illiterate. The only possible remedy for this blight on the Supreme Court at this point is impeachment. That's the only way a Supreme Court justice could be actually removed. And that's only happened once in our nation's history when we were very, very, very young, very, very young nation. Samuel Chase, back in 1804, he was impeached by the House, but failed to be convicted in the Senate, and so he was never removed. So we have never effectively removed a Supreme Court justice. So unfortunately, it looks like we're stuck with this wannabe Broadway lunatic whose acting and singing are even worse than her pathetic judicial decisions.
Okay, there we go, folks. All right, let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I am following his channel, and I've given him a thumbs up. And yes, you know, these impeachments that they keep hollering about, you have to have 2/3 of the Senate, which would be 66 or 67, probably 67 senators, to vote yes on the conviction of the impeachment in order for the person to be removed from office. So, you know, is that going to happen if the Democrats, heaven forbid, get the House back in 26? If they impeach him, it's just a freaking waste of time. But, you know, during the last two impeachments, it didn't bother Donald Trump. You know, he kept on doing stuff while they were doing the impeachment. It's not like he stopped and hid in the basement like Biden. He kept on doing stuff. So, you know, but let's hope beyond hope that the Democrats do not regain the House or the Senate. Okay, moving on here. Let's jump down here to ACLJ Sekulow. Trump DOJ fires Epstein lead prosecutor. Huh, that's interesting. Okay, let's check on this here. Click on the link. Let me get this full screen for you. Back it up. Here we go.
Here in San Diego, including still getting to work for all of you. You guys are paying for my vacation, so it's only fair that I do a little work during my vacation. This is about Judge Boasberg's going to get impeached, according to, well, Trump's trying, and he's got a lot of other legal, this is a legal issue focused one, especially on illegal immigration. So this is our buddy, Stephen Miller, on the real good work being done by Trump on the immigration.
Traffic in Los Angeles, your health insurance premiums go down, your public school classroom size will shrink dramatically. They have more time to educate every student. You won't have to compete for public benefits. If you're down in your luck, you're having a hard time, and you do need to get support from the government, you're not going to be in line behind millions of illegal aliens from the third world. This is going to be such a gift to the quality of life of everyday Americans, Jesse. It's hard to even express the wonders that await for working people.
Well, I mean, you had me at no traffic in LA. If you guys can get that message broadcast loud and clear over there, I mean, I think you'll have a lot of those people in LA saying adios themselves. When you're hearing stories, Miller, about people self-deporting, what do we know about how many people have decided to just pack up and leave themselves?
Well, based on the labor force data, so as you know, under the Biden administration, all job growth on net since Biden came into office went to foreigners.
Did you hear that? All of the job growth under Biden was not for Americans. It was all to foreigners. So all those fake job numbers that were artificially pushed up to make Biden look good, they weren't even for Americans. They all went to foreigners. Now, all of Trump's job numbers, we reported this last month as they came out, there was a net loss of jobs to foreigners and a net gain to Americans. That's the difference. All it took was a different president, guys.
E.g., they went to the migrants. Under Trump, all job gains have gone to Americans. Looking at labor force data, we believe there's already been 1 million self-deportations. Wow. So we are well on our way here. If we stay the course, Jesse, and if illegal aliens understand the consequences of staying versus the opportunities of leaving, we're going to see millions and millions more self-deportations. Because if you stay, here's the consequences. You face sudden arrest, sudden deportation. You face the potential garnishment of all of your income, all of your wages, the loss of your property, incarceration and imprisonment for immigration and other crimes. If you choose to self-deport, you can go back home. You do have the opportunity to apply for legal entry if you wish to do so in the future, and you're going to get a $1,000 check on your way out. So it's a very clear choice. And we're seeing over 1 million illegal aliens are clearly choosing just to go back to their countries.
And look, if there is some kind of a shortage of employment in farms and in labor and at hotels, they're going to look to which illegals deported themselves by choice and followed the rules to put them up in line. And we'll go, hey, we have a shortage of this many hotel workers, and boom, we can go get all those ones that registered and got deported, that deported themselves and got their $1,000 check, and we'll bring them back in on a work visa. So problem solved. This is a really good plan.
But look, at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is this, Jesse. Who lives in your country determines what your country is, right? Haiti doesn't work as a country. Like, it just doesn't. People have tried forever. People have spent billions of dollars trying to make Haiti work as a project. Haiti doesn't work. If you take Haiti and you move it to America, it's not going to work here. Somalia doesn't work as a country, has never worked as a country.
This is about national identity, and I totally agree with what he's saying. If you bring immigrants in, they need to be Americanized and brought here and participate in the great American dream. We're not racist. We don't care if you're brown. We don't even care if you're from another country. If you get here legally, welcome to the country. But we want you to embrace our culture and our Constitution instead of waving your own home flag. That doesn't belong here. Go wave your flag in your own country. Now, on illegal immigration, we're going to get to the judge real quick. But first, here's Bernie Sanders on how he changed his tune. He went from being pro-illegal to now he's for deporting them because Democrats do not have an issue to run on. This is a 70-30 issue, guys. Incredibly popular with the American people. Democrats will never win again if they don't become the deportation party.
He decided not to run for re-election.
How concerned are you about these continuing ICE efforts that we are seeing, videos of a number of Republicans continue to say, Republican governors I've spoken to continue to say, well, look, they are going after the baddest of the bad people. We have wiretaps on people and investigations. I read a piece in The Atlantic that says they're actually pulling people in FBI or elsewhere in law enforcement who are actually doing investigations on really bad people who are here illegally in order just to get body counts, in order to get the 3,000 people a day that Stephen Miller, has told multiple people in the administration that he wants.
By the way,
Look,
they need to get 8,000 a day to make up for what Biden did. So 3,000 a day is only 1/3 to 1/2 of the job. So calm down, Cooper. Calm down, Anderson.
Think the American people are at. If you are a drug dealer, if you are somebody in this country undocumented or has committed a crime, I think most people think, hey, have a nice day, you're out of here. And I support that.
Have a nice day, you're out of here. If you're an illegal drug dealer or if you're a criminal, there you go. And by the way, that's where most people are at. We're more concerned with the drug dealers. I agree with you have to be able to deport any illegal because they are a lawbreaker just by. Now, this is going to play into Adam Schiff. It's going to play into these wacky judges. This is our buddy, Mike Davis. D.C. Obama judge Bob Boasberg told the leaders of the federal judiciary that there's an impending constitutional crisis. This is widely inappropriate, out of line, and flat out wrong. After that, Boasberg told the president of the United States to turn around the military planes full of terrorists. This was a lawless order, by the way. That was a secret mission, and the planes did not turn around. He exposed an ongoing military mission. That's not his job. The impeachment of Judge Boasberg cannot come soon enough. Thanks for having me on. Here's Mike Davis.
The Article 3 Project joins us now. How did you take this story, this Boasberg story? What did you make of it?
Margot Cleveland at the Federalist did an excellent job reporting this case. You have this D.C. Obama judge, Jeb Boasberg, who told the Judicial Conference, the leaders of the federal judiciary, that there's going to be a constitutional crisis with President Trump, and they need to stop it, which is highly inappropriate that he did that in the first place. And then several days later, on Saturday, March 15th of this year, D.C. Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg opened up his courtroom in D.C. when it was not even his duty dockets that weekend, and ordered the President of the United States to turn around military planes expelling foreign terrorists, a clearly lawless order. Thankfully, these planes did not turn around, and these planes full of terrorists landed in El Salvador. But this was a clearly coordinated, premeditated attack on the presidency by D.C. Obama Judge Jeb Boasberg.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that all of these judges probably see themselves as fighting for the country and for the democracy. They love this kind of phrasing on the left. But how undemocratic is it for some guy that's never been elected to anything, a district judge that was brought in by just one very far left president, to just assume the power of the presidency and tell the president what he can and can't do? They love these nationwide injunctions. And I'm sure that they must feel so marginalized now that they can no longer do it. It must be killing them that the Supreme Court has made that decision.
Yeah, and I had never done this up until this point, but I have called for the impeachment of this judge, Boasberg. What he did was not only extremely illegal, he got slapped down by the Supreme Court after that. It was also extremely dangerous to our national security. He exposed an ongoing military operation to expel the most dangerous terrorist in the Western Hemisphere. And
so Mike Davis is...
Okay, before Doug jumps in, I'm going to jump in. And, I don't know why when these people start talking about impeachment, you would think the commentator here, the reporter, would say, what's the point? Do you think that you're going to get 67 senators to approve the impeachment? To vote yes on the impeachment and remove him from office? Do you think that's going to happen? I mean, this throwing this freaking impeachment stuff around is simply ridiculous. It's a waste of time. We just have to grin and bear it. Yeah, he's probably deserves impeachment, but he's not going to get it, because you're not going to get 14 Democrats to say, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll go ahead and remove an Obama judge. Yeah, we'll do that. Right.
Building a case against Boasberg. We're going to find out if this has legs or not. I hope it does. I think Boasberg should be impeached, but he's starting to roll that one out. I say impeach Boasberg. But wait, it gets better. Because remember, Boasberg getting the boot. We want Emil Bove on the Supreme Court. Here's Julie Kelly. Tomorrow is Senate Judiciary Committee vote on Emil Bove for Third Circuit Appellate Court. We got to start loading up these lower courts. Democrats have been trying to sink the nomination for weeks. Then suddenly a whistleblower appeared. A review of his account and subsequent interviews show an insubordinate activist is trying to get Emil Bove undermined. I did a previous video weeks ago on how Emil Bove is the only guy that terrifies Adam Schiff. And speaking of Adam Schiff, he's suddenly silent on Trump calling out Adam Schiff on his Letitia James-like real estate fraud. Here's Laura Ingraham.
The man who chaired the Trump impeachment inquiry and peddled Russia collusion lies to any media outlet that would listen, was suddenly tight-lipped today when pressed on new allegations that he may have committed mortgage fraud.
Senator, do you have a response to Trump saying you're guilty of mortgage fraud? Do you have any response? Senator, why did you decide to make your primary residence in Maryland for 10 years? For a decade?
Oh, not so chatty.
Any comment on Trump accusing you of mortgage fraud, sir?
Pencil neck.
Any response?
Oh, yeah. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. We did, especially after seeing his 2011 affidavit where he and his wife attested to the veracity of statements calling Potomac, Maryland, his principal residence.
Yeah, you can't do that and run for office. And we're going to finally wrap it up on this last one by Mike Davis. This is an outstanding pick. Donald Trump says, I am pleased to nominate Jennifer Mascott to serve as a judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, Jennifer Clerk for Justice Clarence Thomas and Justice Brett Kavanaugh, where she learned much about upholding the Constitution and safeguarding our freedoms. Jennifer is a highly respected constitutional law professor, served in the Department of Justice in my first term, and currently works in the White House counsel's office. The incredible people of Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey have confidence in Jennifer. She will be a strong judge and protect the rule of law. Congratulations, gents. That's good news. Trump is getting his court picks in. Anytime they're packing the court means they're setting her up for the Supreme Court, and it helps Trump keep from offset the appointment of all of these radicals. What do you guys think? Does Boasberg get impeached? Yes or no? I'm Doug in Exile.
I don't know. He might get impeached, but he won't be removed from office. Sorry, Doug. Hate to disappoint you, but that's not going to happen. All right. As you can see, this video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and scroll down to what's next? Oh, you know what? I actually skipped over ACLJ Sekulow. Sorry, folks. I was just so excited about Doug in Exile. So let's go ahead and click on this. Trump DOJ fires Epstein lead prosecutor. Okay, well, let's see what that's all about. Let me get it back to the beginning for you.
If you're watching right now, you're like, why are you in sunglasses? These are prescription. And I got to go find my regular glasses. But right before the show, this is what happens.
And all you wanted to do was be able to see on air today.
Yeah, because these are prescription. Because if I took my glasses off, one eye would go that way, and I wouldn't be able to read the screens in front of me. I know we're having some fun here, but we're talking about this news. Look, did I want to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein every day? No, I do not. But some reason, the FBI can't help but make it the #1 story of the day. The prosecutor for not only Jeffrey Epstein, but also for Diddy, has been fired by Department of Justice, a.k.a. through Pam Bondi's office. And this one may seem a bit familiar, Will, because what's the name of this attorney?
This is the second Comey that the Trump administration has fired, because the first was obviously James Comey as FBI director in the first term. This is James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, who is a prosecutor for the Southern District of New York in Manhattan, in the U.S. Attorney's Office there. She obviously has worked on some of these high-profile cases you talked about. She was one of the prosecutors on the Epstein case, then on Ghislaine Maxwell's case, as well as the Diddy Combs case. And now we have no longer employed Comey at the DOJ. There hasn't been a specific reason given at this point, but with all the fallout with the Epstein documents.
We got to give you the facts, and the facts are pretty interesting. Which you have high-profile member, high-profile attorney. She happens to be a Comey. She happens to be the child of James Comey. And, of course, then you have on that she did Jeffrey Epstein. And, of course, Sean Diddy Combs.
And when you look at this also, while we don't know a reason, we do know that there was some kind of maybe embarrassment, some egg on the government's face in the Diddy trial, where the big charges they went for, the RICO, the conspiracy charges, they didn't get the conviction. Now, once again, she is a senior trial attorney in the prosecutor's office. I don't know if she was the lead prosecutor, so haven't done enough research into that case specifically, whether or not, you can blame her exclusively for that, but it was her trial. But then she was a part of the Ghislaine Maxwell case, where they did get a conviction for 20 years for Ghislaine Maxwell. Obviously, we know that Jeffrey Epstein, his case never went to trial because he died while in the jail.
I'm glad you left that open-ended. Thank you.
Well, I just said he died. I didn't say how he died.
That's what I'm saying.
But those are kind of the facts. I don't know her other prosecution record, how many convictions she has, how good of an attorney she was. But the high-profile ones, it is interesting that she was a part of many of these, especially now. You also take that and look and say, okay, a lot of times people that have that expertise are assigned to those types of cases.
Yeah, I'm not here to besmirch anybody. She may be a very qualified attorney who is doing her best. Even if it's a Comey, that doesn't mean anything. Again, you shouldn't be judged by the fact that we don't care for your father. Okay? We don't care for his seashell games. We now have a statement, a comment that comes directly from Maureen Comey that went out to her team today, I assume, when they said, hey, she probably sent an email out saying I'm no longer working. And she didn't pull any punches.
Being reported by Politico, it was a note to her former colleagues that she sent today, and it says, we have entered a new phase where, quote, without fear may be the challenge, and that's referring to the without fear or favor motto. And then she says, if a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Do not let that happen. Fear is the tool of a tyrant, wielded to suppress independent thought. Instead of fear, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place, a fire of righteous indignation at abuses of power, of commitment to seek justice for victims, of dedicated to truth above all else. And then she also confirmed, Politico says, that she was not provided a reason for her termination, but it was conveyed to her by a memo from the Justice Department. This is really interesting to me, Logan.
She then gave the speech from Independence Day.
Right.
Bill Pullman was out there saying, we will not go quietly. And
when I first was hearing this story last night, was, okay, I don't know her prosecution record.
Yeah,
I just know her last name. I know a lot of people in our, kind of media sphere have been talking about her, but I didn't really have a decision. But this line that she wrote to her colleagues,
and now it's,
fear is not a tool of fear is a tool of a tyrant wielded to suppress independent thought. We speak truth, the power, a fire of righteous indignation.
It says it all.
Okay,
we started this show and we said, okay, you know what? You don't blame Maureen Comey for being a Comey. That's not something. That's not cool. You can't do that. She could be great at her job, could not have anything to do with James Comey. But what's clear is the apple don't fall too tall. What did I say there?
It
Will?
doesn't fall too far from the tree, Logan.
It was hard for you to say it too.
I did. Well, because you already implanted there in my brain
the Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed. But this is kind of an interesting moment because now you have these, vibrato statements, these big statements saying, it sounds like something out of Braveheart. And I don't care for that. You know what? Go quietly into the night. That's what I say. You know what? Just enjoy you had a job for the time you had. You couldn't convict Diddy. You went too far. Clearly, there's some Epstein problems. Rick, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that the New York mayoral candidacy and election is heating up. It is something that has become a national story. And there have been some discussions, and I've seen the comments saying, why do we care about this? And then I sort of reminded our audience, hey, I don't necessarily even know that I can name the last 5 or maybe the current mayor in my suburban town outside of Nashville. But I can tell you the last probably 5 mayors of New York, because of New York's global impact. So when you have some of these candidates that are now making their rounds, of course, like Mamdani, making the rounds in Washington, D.C. to court for more money, to court for support, at least we need to be paying attention to what happens in this race.
I think that what's happening with Mamdani is spilling over into the rest of America right now. And it's spilling over in a very fast way. I just saw today and was trying to go public with the fact that in my home state of California now, we've got Congressman Ro Khanna, who represents Silicon Valley, has endorsed Mamdani. Now you think about this, the representative, the political representative of Silicon Valley, the most creative part of America, the entrepreneurial spirit in America, is represented by somebody who just endorsed a communist, someone who cannot embrace capitalism. He's said, I'm not a fan of capitalism. I don't understand what's happening across America and specifically in Silicon Valley when Silicon Valley sends a congressman to Washington, D.C., and that congressman is working against capitalism, working for communism. I think they just jumped the shark in Silicon Valley with their representative. This is a red alert. This is something that should not be happening. And I think across America, if your congressman if your senator, if your mayor is somehow flirting with Mamdani, a person who has been very clear about who he is, to lead the largest city in America, this is a crisis for America. This is like that moment when the Democrats came forward and said, we've got this great idea. We're going to call it sanctuary cities, and we're going to protect people when they break federal law. Conservatives, Republicans, people who are full of common sense should have been screaming immediately when they came up with this concept of sanctuary cities. Well, now the red alert is about the largest city in America cannot be led by somebody who flirts with communism, who says that communism is a better way, who can't defend capitalism. This is America, people. You got to get loud, and you've got to put pressure on your local politicians who are saying nice things about this guy.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. I am following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, now I've been talking the past few days about, chats and also sharing the information out for my videos. And I just got updated stats today on my channel. Let me go ahead and share this. Okay, so I'm green on everything. I needed 30 hours of hours streamed from Rumble Studio. I needed 30. I've got 52. Hours watched this month. I needed 200. I've got 2,650. Total unique chatters. I needed 20. I've got 22. Rumble Premium exclusive hours streamed. I needed 5. I've got 10.7. So looks like I'm in good shape here. Don't know exactly how this is supposed to help me, whether they're going to be promoting my videos more or what the situation is. I haven't heard back from them since I met this criteria, but thank you very much, folks. I really appreciate you helping me out on this. It's just great. Okay, let's jump back here. Let me share this page and let's see what the Bongino report has to say. White House confirms President Trump's chronic medical diagnosis. Okay, I don't know if you've heard, but he had some swelling in his ankles and in his wrists. So let's just take a listen to this and see what they have to say.
And make sure that you never miss a show. Okay, so let's get into this health diagnosis. President Trump's health has come into question after these photos of his hands and swollen ankles have gone viral on social media, mostly from Democrat YouTubers, influencers, etc. on the internet. They've been pointing this out. So let's bring this first one up. David Pakman, he's a Democrat YouTuber. Trump's ankles are swollen. His hand is bruised and now covered with makeup. That's not normal. Possible causes: congestive heart failure, IVs, blood thinners. Of course, we have no idea because the most transparent White House ever won't tell us a thing. And we can scroll down here so we can see that there looks like there's some kind of a concealer or liquid foundation on President Trump's hand, and it's not the right color. So it's noticeable. It's noticeable that he's covering something on his hand, potentially a bruise. And then another Democrat strategist also questioned President Trump's ankles. This came into question after he was seen at the World Cup. And you could scroll up just so I can read his commentary there. Swollen ankles at the World Cup, bruised hand at today's press availability. Is the Trump administration hiding the president's health? And then calling on fellow Democrat Jake Tapper, who of course wrote the book Original Sin, all about President Biden's failing health. But of course, he, was Monday morning quarterbacking the entire thing, telling us all about how Biden was failing after the fact and after everyone else knew. Well, the Trump administration is not hiding anything. So here is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt earlier today addressing these health concerns. Watch this.
On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it.
Long video, but I wanted to make sure you saw her explanation in entirety. So chronic venous insufficiency is the diagnosis, and it is common. Listen, President Trump is old. I don't care how swollen his ankles are, as long as he is sharp up top and anything he's dealing with doesn't impede his service to the country, I'm good with it.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. Now, I'm 72. I'm not quite as old as Donald Trump, but I am 72, and for the past few years, I get bruises that just come up on my hand. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just, if I bump it up against the door, walking out of the door, it seems like. I mean, my wife will see a bruise on him. Where'd that come from? I don't know. I don't recall hurting myself. I must have just, bumped the doorknob or something when I walked through it or whatever. But yeah, that happens when you get old, folks. Let me know if you're an elderly person out there. I don't know. I hate to say elderly because I don't feel elderly, but at any rate, that happens when you get, in your late 60s and 70s. That it just happens. Oop.
After Republicans have made such a stink about the lack of transparency when it came to Biden's health, I think it was smart for the White House to come out and get ahead of it, address it head on. This is what the American people wanted from everyone surrounding Joe Biden, but instead we were lied to. Speaking of being lied to about Joe Biden's health, the House Oversight Committee is not finished investigating Biden's aides, although White House physician under President Biden, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and Jill Biden's work husband, Anthony Brunel, they have pleaded the fifth, but now it has just been reported earlier that White House Press Secretary under Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, and others are set to testify. And this is all part of the House Oversight Committee investigation into Biden's mental decline and also physical decline. But who knew what and when did they know it, and who was in charge and who was using the auto pen and who was running the White House, essentially. So Karine Jean-Pierre is set to testify voluntarily on September 12th. When I read this, I'm like, am I impatient? Why not now? She doesn't work. Just get her in there now. Am I the only one who wants to get the show on the road? I don't know. Why does this have to happen in September? Don't know. She's not the only one voluntarily testifying. It is former White House Senior Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates, former special assistant to the president, Ian Sams, and then two prominent Biden spokesmen also set to testify on September 5th and August 21st. So nothing else this month. We got to wait until the end of August and early September to hear from these people. Additionally, White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients is slated to testify on September 18th. Zients apparently oversaw the Biden White House from February 2023 until the end of Biden's term in January. So he would be a key witness in this investigation, certainly there during the bulk of the decline. And he was also named in an article recently because he was the one involved in these closed door Oval Office meetings with President Biden, where he was telling his aides to use the auto pen. So certainly going to be interesting to hear from them. But just because it's on the schedule doesn't mean these people will not also plead the fifth in the 11th hour, right? Because we saw that Dr. Kevin O'Connor, the White House physician, he was supposed to testify on Wednesday. And this was Wednesday of last week. And he showed up and then pleaded the fifth. So again, now Anthony Brunel, it was on the schedule, pleading the fifth. So just because this is on the books and we think that we're going to get some answers in late August or early September, mid-September, doesn't mean that we're going to get anything. I actually will predict that they will all plead the fifth because it just seems like in keeping with what Biden aides are planning, they don't want this information to get out. They don't want to be incriminated. They don't want to be involved in any of this. So I don't think that even though the House Oversight Committee wants to get to the bottom of it, I don't think that we will. I don't think that any of these people are going to put their name next to a testimony and, put their hand on the Bible and swear that they're telling the truth if it might incriminate them in some way. So I'm not optimistic about this. I do not think that we're going to get any information, but I want to talk to you about some good news on the border front. First, though, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor for tonight's show, Blackout Coffee. Coffee lovers, this is the good stuff. I have it in my...
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip forward on this. Get past our coffee commercial here. Hello. I'll tell you what, I like Stephen Miller. I like the way he talks.
Tonight, and he broke some news that there are 1 million illegal aliens who have already self-deported. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Well, based on the labor force data, so as you know, under the Biden administration, all job growth on net since Biden came into office went to foreigners, e.g., they went to the migrants. Under Trump, all job gains have gone to Americans. Looking at labor force data, we believe there's already been 1 million self-deportations.
Wow.
So we are well on our way here. If we stay the course, Jesse, and if illegal aliens understand the consequences of staying versus the opportunities of leaving, we're going to see millions and millions more self-deportations. Because if you stay, here's the consequences. You face sudden arrest, sudden deportation. You face the potential garnishment of all of your income, all of your wages, the loss of your property, incarceration and imprisonment for immigration and other crimes. If you choose to self-deport, you can go back home. You do have the opportunity to apply for legal entry if you wish to do so in the future, and you're going to get a $1,000 check on your way out. So this is a very clear choice.
It is a very clear choice. And it seems like 1 million illegals are taking him up and the Trump administration up on that offer because it's better to get $1,000 and also have the opportunity to come back and do this the right way. A lot of people are self-deporting. It's so funny. I've been seeing a lot of reports from NBC, CNN. They keep interviewing families who are self-deporting, and it seems like they're trying to turn this into a bad thing, when in reality, this is helping them in the long run, because if you take the Trump administration up on this offer, you can come back. If you don't, and you get caught and you get detained and deported, you're not coming back until maybe a Democrat president comes in and undoes everything that the Trump administration did. But like Stephen Miller said, this is a good option. So, and it seems like 1 million already have taken them up on it. And how many months in are we into the Trump administration? Pretty good numbers. So squad member.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Now, talk about, I'm a guy of numbers. Okay, you talk about 1 million people that have been deported. You give them $1,000 a piece. That's $1 billion that the government has just handed out. But number one, you might say, okay, how's this getting paid for? Well, they're saving $3 billion in firing 60,000 federal employees at least. Okay, but The thing is, the cost of arresting these people, keeping them detained until they do get deported, and the cost of actually flying them back to their country with heavy security, I've heard that it costs more to do it that way than to just give somebody $1,000 to bribe him to leave. So there you have it. Okay, good news. This is Haley Coronia. Let me come over here. Haley, follow Haley Coronia on X. I think that's how you pronounce that. Caronia, Coronia. But that's who's doing this for. This is the Bongino report. This was his channel before he became assistant deputy director of the deputy director of the FBI. So as you can see here, I've given them a follow on their channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here again onto the description box. And once again, folks, these videos are videos that come directly from the producers, okay? I've shared these videos here. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out, but I do like to put together different topics of information from different producers to show you what's going on in the world so you can get, a taste of the truth rather than having to rely on the lies and propaganda from the mainstream media and the Democrat Party. So that's why I do this. Let me come up here, and nobody's chatted with me tonight. Okay, I put a chat out there. Hello, is anyone out there? No one responded. So, all right, I guess I'm talking to myself. Let me do a quick refresh here on this. Okay, and looks like I've had 153 people watch this so far. I've got 17 people watching right now, and I've got 3 thumbs up. So if I could get 14 of you to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate that. So let's come over here to Murtec.com. And these 4 videos that I shared are videos that I've posted here on Murtec.com. Okay, right here is the Bongino report that I shared with you. American Center for Law and Justice, the video I shared from there. Dr. Steve Turley, right down here. There we go, Dr. Steve Turley and Doug In Exile. So I post these videos on Murtec.com, which the link to Murtec.com is in the description box below. It's a free site. I don't ask for your name. I don't ask for your email address. I don't ask you to sign up for a newsletter. I don't drop cookies on your computer. I don't have ads popping up in your face. It's just a site that I put together that has over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos that I update every day. In fact, multiple times a day. From different providers, different information. This is your one-stop shop for no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. All right? I didn't have a chance to share all this information with you in this 1-hour podcast, but I do have a daily news wrap-up coming up about 9:30, where I have over 60 videos in my playlist right now. So I'll come back about 9:30. Go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee, a donut, sandwich, or a soft drink, whatever, and meet me back here at 9:30, and we'll start our daily news wrap-up. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for your time. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.